course, it's another day, a fresh week, Monday, the 20th of July, 2026. We're here again to take a look at happenings in and around Nigeria here on the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Good morning to you and welcome. I am Chisom Chinedu. The weekend was fully packed after we left here on Friday. Self-acclaimed prophet, Onyeze Jesus, Onyebuchi Okocha, got 6 years imprisonment and a fine of 20 million naira for offences bordering on the violation of the Anambra Homeland Security Law. If you followed up on issues surrounding some, would I call them fake prophets that have been arrested around Anambra State. Now, I mean both the traditional and Christian prophets that have been arrested around Anambra State. You must have come across the story of Onyebuchi Okocha, popularly known as Akana Soch, Onyeze Jesus, and of course, 6 years imprisonment, 20 million naira fine. That's the latest update on his matter. Also, over the weekend, we had the NBA election, which happened, and of course, there's been some controversies trailing it. And coming back to Anambra State, where yesterday it was, what do I call it now? A feast, a drag feast, after a PR specialist, and of course, one of the media's finest, talk about Sir Uchenwara, or Chief Uchenwara, talked about the unveiling or the statue that was unveiled in Ogidi of Chinua Achebe, literally icon, and the reactions that have trailed that comparison of the statue of Achebe in Ogidi and the statue of Achebe in other places. Some persons have come out to say this statue doesn't look like Achebe. Some other persons have run along with the political narrative of it being an attempt at discrediting works done by the Anambra State government. But of course, we've had clarifications coming from necessary quarters, noting that that statue was not constructed by Anambra State government. It was, however, done by the sons and daughters of Ogidi in recognition of that icon. And of course, I want to believe the tension has now died down. Also, on Saturday, we had the AMT Awards 5.0 that happened in Oka. Of course, it was an award that was organized to honor and celebrate sons and daughters of Anambra State who have done exceedingly well in different walks of life. I recall vividly having there, I met Professor Stella. I met that's the mass communication professor. Also met Fidelity Bank CEO. There were so many other women who were honored at that event. Artist of the Year, I recall, went to Ken Eriks. We also had the likes of Mr. M and Revelation bagging an award. And it was also at the event, chaired by Professor Ezibo. Franklin, good morning.
Good morning, Jason. Good morning to our amiable listener. Like you said, the weekend was packed with lots of developments. And here in Anambra State, you made reference to the conviction of Onyeze Jesus, prophets, if you like. Okay, prophets. Okocha, who is known as Onyeze Jesus. That was on Friday. 6 years in prison and then 20 million naira fine. And for the fact that he has been in custody for about 1 year, so that is going to be deducted. So we might be counting roughly 5 years he's going to spend in prison before he secures his freedom. But if you look at the judgment itself, you see that, should I say it was a good news for him because he was only convicted on one count out of the 3 charges leveled against him. And that count was propagating, the acquisition of wealth through supernatural means without any lawful labor. That was the count on which he was convicted.
Mm-hmm.
So other counts of talking about money doubling, preparation of terms like Okita and Co. Are those ones the court said that the prosecution was not able to prove that he was involved in that. In as much as there was video of him, making such statement, but the prosecuting counsel could not prove that beyond reasonable doubt because this is a criminal matter. So that is it for Onyezechi. So she talked about the reactions that have trailed the unveiling of the statue of Chinua Achebe in Ogidi. I must tell you that the reactions I have seen so far, because I believe that from both sides, maybe they missed some elements in their reaction because some of the persons who reacted initially were thinking that statue was done by the government of Anambra State. And many of them were directing their reactions towards the state government, asking the state government should call the person who did the job, ask questions, why would government do such a thing? And I even saw that the mayor of Idemili North Local Government area got involved in the altercations on social media. I saw his reactions. Even some persons who were working for him too also got involved. I also saw some government handlers getting involved in that whole thing until Marty Jimofo, that was yesterday, came out to clarify that very statue was not done by the state government. The only thing that the government did was just to go there and commission that. It was Ogidi Town Union who decided to honor their own, because Chinua Achebe is from Ogidi, by doing that. But aside whatever people had been talking about, I read one thing which was written by, I think that should be, is it Patrick Okibo? And he said something. He said that in as much as art can mean different things to different persons, that because of the standard that Chinua Achebe set across the world, that the books he wrote many years ago, up to today, they are still seen as evergreen. That whoever that did that should do something evergreen in his memory, so that if people come out from outside Nigeria and come across that very statue, they will be able to recognize that this is the man they read his book. Or if people who are yet unborn, and they come out tomorrow, they read his book, see his picture on the book. Once they get to that very point, they will be able to say, this is the man that will read his book. And I saw some sense in what he said. The thing is this, what is worth doing is worth doing well.
I think that's it at the center. Whatever is worth doing well. And so, like I was saying earlier, Professor Stella Okuna bagged the Lifetime Achievement Award on Saturday. We had the likes of Mrs. Amaka Omohalo, the chairman of Fidelity Bank, bagging the Woman of the Year Award. Professor Joy Ngozi Ezilo San bagging the Lifetime Achievement Award as well. We had some other notable women. Inspiring Woman of the Year went to Chinyere Moneme San. We also had the Rector of Federal Polytechnic, Oko, Dr. Chioma Awuzie, bagging the Public Servant of the Year. We had Chief Akai Egwon. Frank, when I saw him, I said, see Frank's friend. Yeah, he bagged the Investor of the Year award. There was also the Legislator of the Year. I'm pretty sure also went to a woman. I think, yes, Professor Obiageli Lillian Orobu. That's the member representing Oka North and South Federal Constituency. And another woman, forgive me, I'm a woman, so it was really thrilling to see many women awarded on Saturday. The Academy of the Year also went to a woman, Professor Ngozi Ebuna. There was a Corporate Leader of the Year that went to Iyom Joy Egolum. There were other women. And of course, we had men also, Tobechukwu Okibo for the Corporate Icon of the Year, Oil and Gas Investor of the Year going to Chief Pius Njoko. We had Real Estate Icon of the Year going to Archbishop Onyeka Nzekwesi. And the list is long. The list is actually long. But congratulations to all of them. One thing I figured on Saturday is that this is one award that wasn't centered on rewarding people for how much they are willing to contribute to the event. It was actually based on what have you done? What's your track record like? And if it's something that is worth celebrating, best believe Auntie would celebrate you. Dr. Tony Olisambeki is here as well. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning to you, Chisholm. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, in the Anambra. Good morning, in the Onitsha, Donedo. Good morning, in the Osimo. Good morning, everyone under the reach of our voice. Good morning, in the Afian Dolwaka, Dolubo, the Nkuzi, and all those who are into transportation, the security agents, and as well everyone who is committed to doing good our religious, spiritual, and traditional leaders, and people who are from the opinion leadership role, and everyone. We thank God Almighty for a day like this. There is nothing like miracle of waking up every morning. There's nothing like that. And we are back in our sanctuary, the temple of the God, the Most High God, where we speak the truths, where we spill it, where we say the way it is. Not just that, we are here doing our own ministry, our own evangelism. There is no collection of tithes, no collection of offering, nothing. And most times we don't just run prophecy, we run you a prediction that is fact-based and something that relies on pattern, not that kind of prophecy you see everywhere you go. You're welcome. Just sit back and enjoy the program. We are just here to do good and keep telling you things you should know, correcting erroneous impressions, and also stating facts, stating the record straight, and also saying it the way it is. There's nothing like that.
All right, then. We're going to tell you what the front pages say, and right after that, we dive into the conversation proper. On our table this morning, we have The Nation, Vanguard, The Punch, and The Guardian newspapers. On the front page of The Nation, we have the banner headline here being Nigeria asks ECOWAS to drag South Africa before AU. The writer here is we must send signal that xenophobia is unacceptable. Tinubu, don't change constitution to NGO to extend tenure. Okay, that's what that headline says. Badejo Okunsanya pledges to lead MBA with integrity. Of course, we told you earlier, we're going to be having a lawyer on the show today to throw more light on what happened on Saturday. Obi Atiku lacks structure and oath to defeat Tinubu. Ganduje is speaking. Find that on page 3. Bonga terminal dispute. Mantri Logistics secures injunction against Shell MPA. Others on page 4. Troops foil attempt to kidnap 46 students in Borno on page 35. NRS gives July 31st deadline for e-invoicing compliance on page 19. And the LEA intercepts Kano-bound 136 million naira drugs on Lagos Ibadan Road on page 35. Osun 2026. Oye Bamiji promises mechanized farming infrastructure renewal. Deji Adeleke seeks neutral role for police, electoral officers. APC leaders, we have no abandoned candidate. That's on page 6. Burham replaces Starmer today as UK Prime Minister on page 34.
Okay, so let's go to the Vanguard newspaper to see the headlines here. And the big story there says FIFA 2026 World Cup, Super Spain rule the world, overwhelm Argentina on page 33. Yes, 32. You will see the picture story there. You will see the picture of Lionel Messi that looks like he is crying. That very picture. People who watched that very much yesterday, I don't know what happened to Argentina for playing 120 minutes without registering any shot on target. Maybe it was the worst of the finals we have seen so far in the history of World Cup because it was like a one-sided affair. Spain controlled the show. At the end of the day, they won 1-0 courtesy of that very goal by Ferran Torres. Then this one says agro export crashed 31% as port delays. Pesticide triggered global. On page 11, Badejo Okunsanya wins NBA presidential poll, pledges accountability on page 9. Sochisum, a woman, won. He won 2 other men that are contesting, and all of them, they have the rank of son. But reactions have trailed that very NBA election. NGE holds 4th Lateef Jakonde Memorial Lecture on Credible Elections 2023 on page 26. NCAA experts clash over 5% air ticket charge on page 2. And above the nameplate, petrol imports rose by 207% in June. And then DPRA is the one saying so. You can read that on page 2. Troops Mopo forward mass abduction attempt at FGGC in Borno on page 9. Nigeria's macroeconomic reforms are bearing durable fruits on page 14. Agama Sec DJ is the one saying so. And the final story on the front page of Vanguard says FG to issue second 729 billion naira bond to clear Genco's debt. These are the stories on the front page of Vanguard.
All right, then from the Vanguard newspaper, ladies, let's move to the Punch. And of course, dollar sale row. Marketers halt Dangote fuel loading. FG steps in. That's on page 7. Pricing uncertainty triggered Dangote fuel loading suspension. Marketers presently, some retail fuel stations are already selling for 1,250. That's what I bought this morning. Some are selling for 1,200, and the list I have seen around here is 1,015 naira, and that was about 2 weeks ago. Refinery rejects claims of loading shutdown. FG opens talks with Dangote as FCCPC insists on naira payment. Fake agency scandal. Abbas unveils pro panel today on page 8. Frank, did you see a video from VDM talking about? I was waiting to see the big reveal, but
Yes, I saw a snippet of that where he made a relation that there are some persons in the presidency and also in the National Assembly who have to midwife the budget of the so-called council into the budget, and he mentioned the DG or budget office in precisely saying that he needs to be questioned, that Adeni Adeyemi reviewed a whole lot to him. Like we have been saying, the only thing that can reveal more is if we have a thorough and independent investigation into this very incident so that nobody is going to be spared. Anybody who has been fingered should be given the fair hearing to respond. And by the time they have done the proper investigation, let them tell us the outcome of everything.
absolutely.
And those who are responsible should be able to face the full weight of the law.
Okay, Terror Mall alert. Opposition slams FG demands arrests on page 7. Businesses expect CBN to hold rates as MPC meets today on page 21. States packet 2.37 trillion naira that and a new tax regime on page 21. Ogun 2027 Yai Yabo Basonjo clash over campaign refund on page 8. Tenant dies after disputed eviction at Lagos Estate on page 4 and 5. Pages 4 and 5. FG raises 729 billion naira bond to clear Genco's legacy debts. Find that on page 27 and on page 30. World Cup. No mercy for Messi as Spain seals second title on page 30.
That was a good headline, I must tell you.
Must tell you.
Because there was no mercy for mercy.
Craftfully put together.
They pocketed him in that very much. And then we move over to the headlines on the Guardian newspaper. On page 6, you see the story about power supply. It says FG targets 729 billion naira second tranche bond to clear Genco's legacy debts. And let me even admit that in about 2 weeks now, or 1 week plus, I think I've seen improvement in power supply in this very area. So let's see by the time they clear the debts if we're going to have more improvement in this very sector.
That's something I'm going to tell you off the microphone.
Okay. So cooking gas imports surged by 1,400% as petrol supply dips by 22%. On page 3, Nigeria losing over 862 billion naira yearly as MDAs exceed 900, says Oye. On page 3, battle for excess liquidity. DMO, Dangote mobilized 11 trillion naira in 6 months as the rail sector struggles. This one says ICPC secures for future of 941.9 million naira from IPs goes to workers. On page 4, Syria urges NAS to withdraw social media shutdown bill. On page 4, they say that this social media shutdown bill is embedded in Nigeria Data Protection Bill, which is before the National Assembly. And that section is saying that the social media platforms should be able to establish offices in Nigeria. If they fail to do so, government will have the right to shut them down. And Serap is afraid that this might be a ploy to allow social media platforms to leave Nigeria. In that very case, limiting Nigeria's chances of having freedom of expression. San folds poll as Badejo Kunsoya emerges 33rd NBA president on page 4. Obi marks 65th birthday with 10 million naira number hospital donation on page 7. Parties begin candidates upload, express confidence ahead of INEC deadline on page 6. And the picture stories about, Spain winning the World Cup. You can see the picture of US President Donald Trump join them in celebration of the trophy, their second in their historic years. And these are the headlines we have on the front page of The Guardian.
And of course, we're going into the conversation now. Do stay. And just to let you know, we are live on Facebook. Udala Radio 104.7 FM is our handle. And of course, Tony, we're going to start off with the NBA story. Talking about the election that happened over the weekend. And that is because two of the contestants for the post of NBA presidency have rejected that result. We're going to be having Barrister Chijioke Fediora to speak for other lawyers on the show this morning, but we understand that Are Olumuyiwa Akimboro San and Lateef Akongbe San have challenged the legitimacy of Oyinka Shola Badejo Okusanya San, all Sans by the way, as the winner of the highly contested poll. We understand that Badejo Okusanya polled a total of 12,317 votes. That's about 47.18% of the total votes. And if I'm not mistaken, she's going to be she has become the first female, or the second female to have the MBA, the largest bar in Africa. And of course, she got nearly half of the votes cast. Also, we have Akangwe, who secured 7,934 votes, equating to about 30.39% of the votes cast. And there is Akimboro, who garnered 5,855 votes. That's about 22.43% of the votes cast. But there have been controversies. Okay, the two candidates have expressed their objections, and it is largely about the conduct of the election and the outcome. According to Akimboro, who, by the way, is a former NBA General Secretary, he said the process was a charade, citing irregularities in the electronic voting system, including ballot manipulation and failure in the delivery of one-time passwords, OTPs. He also alleged ballot errors, failure in delivery of the OTPs, like I said, and other irregularities, which, according to him, prevented him from effectively participating in the election and undermining his credibility. Also, he rejected the outcome and expressed doubt over the credibility and transparency of the poll. Now, I am going to put a call to this lawyer and get to hear what he has to say, speaking about Barrister Chijioke Ifediora. But while I am doing that, Tony, one question that a lot of persons, including myself, have asked is, this is the same people we run to when we have issues with elections conducted in the country. As a matter of fact, we have over time indoctrinated go to court. And we have seen how the processes have panned out in the years past. And these same people are having allegedly similar issues in their own elections. Is there still something for us to trust in the court?
Well, just like you asked, Nigerian Bar Association is a product of Nigerian society, so you don't expect anything different. For the fact that they have a different way of dressing, they have their kind of suit, they have their kind of color white t-shirt, and the wig they usually put on. These things do not extricate them from an average Nigerian. The mindset of an average Nigerian. I have asked myself question. But every one of us is talking about the NBA election that produced Badejo Okusanya. For me, I'm looking beyond the election itself, because I have looked at this body, one of the professional bodies, since 1933. It came into existence, and one of the mandates remains to ensure the integrity of judiciary and also the independence of courts. And I've asked myself this question many times: have they been able to live up to their mandate? Forget election. and their problems are surrounding the elections. Have they been able to? And I've asked myself this question till date. If there is this cliche that bail is free, but we've seen police stations, police authorities collecting money, especially when they want to grant administrative bail to people they have arrested for investigation or thereabouts. And I also understand that some lawyers, members of the Nigerian Bar Association, we also solicit these funds from the supposed people they are supposed to defend and say, let's give them this money. If you go to Okozo, where before now it was known as Okozo SARS, State CID, and so many places, there are so many people that maybe we arrested for one thing or the other, but they were still subject to investigation. And they have called on some of these lawyers to help them in their cases. And you know what they get? That these people are calling for 200,000, 250,000 for your bail. I don't know, but we have to negotiate with them. Lawyers are negotiating with police.
So
Tell me
technically what
this-
you're saying is they have not lived up to...
I am not interested in the election. They are listening to me. What is the election for? Many Nigerians, look at the justice system. Look at how corrupt our courts are. What have they been able to do?
Okay.
They have not made any impact as far as I'm concerned, apart from issuing press releases and then making statements and all of that. Their election, they cannot even hold an election they can call their own. And they want INEC to perform magic. No, my own is many of them are gone into the business of let the election be mad with chaotic experience so that the politicians, you know them, either those who have contested, we hire them and they will call millions. And you know what? Many of them, you know, the idea of attaining the rank of sanship is to increase the professional fee. That's what it's like. Once you're a son, and then a politician goes to election, have issues with INEC, and they hire you. You start charging 50 million, 70 million, and you want the same politician. By the time he gets back there, how he would be able to perform?
All right. Barrister Chijioke Ifediora is here with us. Good morning, Barrister. How are you today? All right, then. This is Udala Radio 104.7 FM. I'm pretty sure you were expecting this call. I am Chisom Chinedu. Franklin Ebuka is in the studio with me, and Dr. Tony Olizambeke is here as well. And the conversation is simple. As a lawyer, the NBA election happened over the weekend. There have been controversies. There have been two of the contestants out of the three rejecting the outcome. And then from the people who did cast the votes, what is your verdict? How do you interpret the process as someone who was a part of it? Did you probably experience any of the difficulties that the refusal was hinged on?
Actually, I wasn't even able to vote despite the fact that I was eligible or qualified to vote. Just prior to the start of the election, they sent out an email asking people to verify and check whether they were eligible to vote. I did that. Then on the day of the election, we tried logging in separately because the idea is to put your Supreme Court registration number, then you get an OTP, one-time code or something like that. Then you can put the code, then you be able to see all the contestants like an electronic ballot. So we tried that separately, it didn't work. We made efforts to contact the support team, but people who were taking the calls said they don't even know what we're talking about. So it looks like a case of giving people, I don't know what I would call it, allegedly a false contact number to call when you have problems. A lot of people experience this. So I think that this is 2026. We're not in 1999 or 2003. It's very, very disappointing that NBA can conduct. I think so far this is the worst NBA election I've been part of. I've been very active in NBA, and I must tell you that it's a very big disappointment. The last election, we had a different site for voting. Then we had a different site showing us real-time voting. So, and NBA has not been able to, over the past few years, conduct an election that is free from irregularities and all that. So it's very disappointing.
So, according to reports out there, figures I cannot verify, NBA has at least 140,000 registered lawyers. 140,000. And from the number, the figures of the votes cast, 12,000 plus on the winning side, 7,000 plus, 5,000 plus, give or take. Approximately somewhere around 24,000 lawyers were able to vote. And you also did mention that you were affected. Now, do you people as lawyers see this as an intentional disenfranchisement?
Yes, it is. And even beyond that, people actually recorded, people actually saw when they voted the timestamps that showed that they voted was not the actual time when they voted. So people saw timestamps showing that they voted very early in the morning, probably around 3 a.m.
What?
So it's I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like at this point, it's even the reason why this same irregularity happened last time, and one of the contestants went to court, but unfortunately, it wasn't the court dismissed the suit. In 2016, J.K. Gasama went to court. The NBA president then was 2 years. By the time the president's tenure ended, while the matter was still in court. So it was purely an academic exercise for the court on the subject matter of on the subject matter that the tenure has expired. So this irregularity has been happening, and it's a pure disenfranchisement, and it becomes part of the leadership of the NBA. We cannot have a free and fair election in NBA if we don't have a credible process. Some people have been arguing and urging that we should return to the delegate formula that we were using in the past. But it's not even a question of method. It's a question of the institution itself. Because if we don't have strong institutions, then we have a very big problem in the future.
Okay, but CJ, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you two questions, and the very first one is from your observation, where would you say that the problem come from? The problem came from. I'm talking about the challenges that people had voting on that very day. Before the election, we heard that there were external forces trying to force some persons on the NBA. We also heard that there was a cyber attack on the site on the day of the election. We also heard that there were some attempts to use the court to scuttle the election, but eventually it held. So one question is, where did the problem that you people witnessed on Saturday, came from? That's number one. Number two is the fact that NBA has had years of not being able to conduct what many people have called a credible election. Is that an indictment on the NBA, which consists of lawyers that Nigerians will always run to for justice? Now, so is it an indictment on the NBA that it cannot conduct credible elections? So can Nigeria still trust NBA to be able to help in delivery of justice if they cannot hold a credible election that every member will say, okay, we give this a pass mark?
We're asking the first question you had. The problem is in the process, lies in leading the contract to conduct this election. We've had this when the process is being heard out, we will see that one way or the other the process is compromised. So it's not that we can't use technology effectively to vote. The problem is that the people, they say he who pays the piper pays the he who pays the piper pays to take the toll or something like that. The problem is not the infrastructure. The problem is the people handling the process, like the people behind the process. That's the problem. And reference to education, how court disease, somebody was arrested, and all that. The reason why they are having this is because some people in the NBA, as people have alleged, say that they have information as to the planned attempt to mar the process and all that. And for someone to be taking this step, it means that one way or the other, they have insight, or they are aware, or they've been participant to this particular type of thing in the past. Because Because if we are to say, okay, we want, if the president or the leadership of the MPA say we want this process to be transparent, we don't want any interference, we want the best, we can afford to do that. You understand? There's nothing we get free from MPA. We virtually pay for everything, even the conference and all that. So if the MPA leadership says that, okay, we want to use ICT to get this thing right, and we want real-time voting, we can afford to do that. So it's not just that the ICT, the infrastructure is not capable of giving us free and fair elections. It's the fact that the people who are behind it, people who have the responsibility to contract that, are the ones making this thing difficult. So going to the second question that you asked, yes, NBA is an institution. That doesn't mean that the entire NBA, like members, they don't have credit people who can't do things. But unfortunately, NBA as an institution, as presented by the leadership, and if the leadership fails, it means that the institution itself is indicted. They don't have the moral obligation to question the government and say, do this right, if their own process is not transparent, if there is no accountability. So it's an indictment on the NBA itself. But why I would want to exonerate a couple of people in NBA is because there are people who still believe that this institution will stand on the principles on which it was founded. There are people who have been fighting, for the past many years to make sure that this institution returns back to how active it was during the military era, where they stood for the masses, where they were not just releasing only statements. When something happens, they just release statements. No proactive action. Look at the court of look at the court of appeal, Loka. It has been in abeyance for many years, going to 3 years now. It was during Obiano's tenure that it was commissioned. That was when the president of the court of appeal, yes, I think so.
Bokachawa.
I can't remember her surname. Yes.
Bokachawa.
She was the one who commissioned it. And I have personally written to the MPA president saying, why can't they post justice to this court of appeal? People have to travel all the way to Enugu and Asaba to have their cases heard. So MPA used to be very proactive when it comes to issues affecting lawyers. But now it's a question of things to happen, the release statement. Government is no longer worried about what MPA will do, because they've seen that our processes are not our process and the things that we do in MPA are no longer as credible and as strong as it used to be in the late 90s. So I think it's not just an indictment, it's a very big stain on MPA.
Okay, so we're going to take it from here. Thank you, Barrister Chijoki Federer, for joining us this very morning. We appreciate your time.
All right, Barrister, thank you. Are you there? Okay, I think the call ended already. And of course, Tony, is there something else you'd like to add as we end the conversation on this?
Well, NBA is, for me, becoming a caricature of what many Nigerians for long had thought they would, be. But the point remains, he has said it the way it pinches him, the whole thing pinches him. Look at common election. They cannot thoroughly execute without any lapses. Now, even when we know that a term lasts for 2 years, because from the constitution of the NBA, the 2015 constitution, a term just lasts for 2 years, and it will take amongst the geopolitical zones. But within the geopolitical zones, I think they have North, and then the West and the East. These are the three geopolitical zones in that very constitution. But when you talk about the North, entire 19 northern states, when you talk about the West, the 16 southwestern states, including the old Midwest, that is the other states and the states. Then when you talk about the East, you talk about the old Eastern states, as we have, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, as these are the zones and it will take. And in fact, as we had the one we are talking about, it was a turn of the West. No, you don't call it Southwest. The turn of the West to produce the NBA chairman. The East just finished their term, so it was a turn. But even when they have rotation amongst them, yet they cannot even process this. And let me say this: you don't introduce a tech, especially when it comes to voting, without conducting mock election.
Very important.
They didn't do that. You are introducing something new. And the software engineers, developers, they have told you that it's gonna work. No, 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 no. I have been, in fact, I'm a student, and I'm not just a student, somebody who graduated with degree on software engineering. And one of the things when it talks about testing and deploy, you must test before you deploy. Yeah, but they deployed without testing, and that testing is the one you may easily call mock. To see how these things will work. The OTP talks about how, just like I said earlier on, I'm not interested in their thing. They have failed us. They have failed Nigerians woefully.
Tony, do you know that for me, because the issue that happened with the NBA is not just about the NBA. I'm looking at the Nigeria. Because you look at the NBA election, that because NBA, any lawyer who has been called to bar is a member of the NBA, whether you were a judge or not. So those judges are admitted as honorary members of the NBA. So we can say that this is the members of the bar and bench. And these are the people that when we have issues with our elections, we cry to them, we run to them for them to be able to give us justice. And look at the NBA that could not hold an election.
Of 140,000 people at most.
You now want to extrapolate to Nigeria. You look at INEC. You look at issues we have been talking about. And that makes me to ask Tony, from the experience of the NBA, can we still say that the problem of elections is about INEC as an institution, or is about the persons who are running this very institution?
But if you look at your question, INEC as an institution has its own problem. Many of them have vested interest, and their recruitment process, how they are brought in, and it is a case of he who pays the piper, he takes the tune. That is just one. And secondly, in fact, the institution itself, and then those who also influence INEC is not truly independent. Now you saw the last NBA leadership, they were the one that organized what this lawyer described as charade, sham. But he was good at making appearances in public events, making speeches, being able to fantasize how things should be and how they would work without even setting up templates and frameworks to see to the actualization of those things. But he couldn't even put up a good election. And for the moment, people were complaining of the glitches, that they were having problem to log in, authentication issues, and then the election ought to have been cancelled. It's just an election meant for a particular zone, not every zone, just Western zone. And they could not. And just like I said earlier on, why would you deploy technology, a software, without first testing it? I've said a lot of things. I don't know.
Does this question our quest to go electronic when it comes to election in Nigeria? Because this is like a microcosm of Nigeria.
Electronic voting remains the simplest way to see a credible election. There are many countries who are using electronic voting system, but are not using the called software deployed in the last election by the NBA. Brazil is one of the countries and the highest population. In fact, in some part of India, electronic system seems to have been introduced to a greater extent. We will not just say because these people could not deploy right technology that we will rule out issue of technology. It still remains the best. It still remains the best. But the problem is you must do your homework very well.
This issue of technology is when you talk about deploying the technology, the issue of data protection also comes in. Because we know that the ones we run now already with INEC, they already complain that the protection is domiciled with a foreign country, and people have questions about it. Now, if you look at the local technology, should I call them experts we have? That's what NBA has deployed, perhaps. I'm just asking.
All right.
If we're going to do this on a larger scale, can we find those indigenous technology companies that can give us what we want, or you wouldn't mind if even if the technology is foreign and data protection is domiciled with a foreign, a foreign party?
Let me say this thing. I think people who are making such assertions are being economical with the truth and are being ignorant. When you talk about technology, somebody can set up technology and totally hands off from the technology. You have the password, you have the login, you have the pings, the person totally. You can also find means of, like you can rent a cloud where it is you that maybe it's gonna be you that will access the information in the cloud. That's what they call cloud system. It's important we put this thing straight. I am aware that, just like I said earlier on, many countries in the world, Venezuela, India, Bulgaria, look at India as large as India. Electronic voting machines nationwide. India, of course, is look at their population. 1.4 billion people. 1.4 billion people making use of electronic voting system. I don't want to talk about even other countries that use electronic voting in some elections or regions like Belgium, United States, even France, Argentina, Albania. There's so many of them, Ecuador. But the point I'm trying to make here is this. You can contact a technology firm to set up everything for you. Even the cloud system where the information will be stored, where the information will be domiciled, where the data, I don't want to talk about the information, it's a processed data. I think these are some of the things we are talking about. It cannot be domiciled. Who wants to do anything with their date of birth? Who wants to do anything with their... But the more important issues, the one we do share on WhatsApp, the one we do share on Facebook, the one we do share on X, we are not concerned that this information and data are domiciled somewhere. That one does not... See, let's be... I don't know, most time when people talk, I don't know whether they reason before they talk. They talk as if they are talking to ignoramus. That's what they think. We know all those things.
The people who have concern about this are not talking about, they're talking about the personal information of people. They're talking about when you have an external body having access to your software, that the chances that the information you have can be used to influence something on their own.
Now, let me
say
say
this. Information on their own to influence
okay,
certain things.
now, you are talking about election results. Our election results, once we upload them, they're everywhere. INEC that usually uploads election results, those things you are afraid of is everywhere. INEC release election results, right? They release it to the public. And foreign partners, they also copy it. They take what INEC releases. Now, the question is, the one we are trying to protect and the ones we have already there. It's just like somebody saying, let me sell dog and buy monkey. They're the same thing. I don't know. It's just because definitely you don't have anything hidden. And I've said here that you can rent cloud where nobody can even access it. Where you are experts can only access it. There are banks. Okay, let me ask you. Banks, they use technology, right? Some of these things are set up by tech companies. Banks do not set those things up. But once these things are set up by tech companies, they hand them over the keys. Why wouldn't they use it to rob the banks, to collect money from banks, to have access to customers' deposits? Why?
Tony, I totally understand where you're coming
important.
from. And
let them not just come here and be speaking as if those that...
It is rather unfortunate that we are still having this conversation around data protection and all of that. I mean, this is 2026, and if you fear that your data could be breached, you don't stay away from having your data at all. You find a way to make sure that there is no loophole. Let's move over to some matters because we're almost out of time. We understand that the dollar sale row between Dangote and marketers is still on, and according to reports, marketers are refusing to load from Dangote. You know the implication of this. If this continues, we're going to probably have a supply shortage and, unfortunately, more hike. And the question at this point is, what is Nigeria doing to make sure that this doesn't happen? I mean, first, the dollarization, and secondly, this conflict doesn't prolong.
Well, I have said that dollarization of petrol lifting in Nigeria by Dangote is a criminal offense. Let's face law. We have the law on our currency.
What would you have the businessman do? If he has to buy with dollar, what would you have him do?
The thing is, take the government to court. We have courts to address some of these things. See, for the fact that government failed to do what is right, you go against the law. You go against the law. That's what we call legal tender. That law says that Naira and Kobo remain legal tenders. What will be used for transactions in is a law. I'm not saying that what government is doing is right. No, that's not my view. My view is if you have a law, respect the law. And I said, the last time we talked about this, if Dangote Petrochemicals or refinery, we are to be in a state like UK, for instance, or any other country, where it did not agree with the country that we may be selling in foreign currency to the locals. Because you can sell to other countries in dollar, but you cannot sell to locals. Like people from United Arab Emirates, they will go to marketers, they will go there to lift oil. Dangote will tell them, being a refinery, United Arab Emirates will tell them you have to pay in dollars. Their government will sack you from that place. It's important we correct this thing and correct these impressions. Yes, government may have made a mistake. We have Legal Tender Act. That's the law. Legal Tender Act that says every purchase, every transaction in Nigeria must be conducted in Naira and Kobo. Dangote Refinery is no exception. Now he has dollarized his transaction and government is keeping quiet. And I think where government fails to live up to its own quota, as we discussed last time, it has to do with the issue of raw crude. Where government says we are going to give you about, say, 300 barrels of raw crude. And government is falling short of that, supplying 100 barrels, 100,000 barrels of raw crude. And they agreed was 300,000 barrels. And government is supplying 100,000 barrels. There is a shortfall of 200,000 barrels. And I said, you can terminate the agreement and decide not to sell to Nigerians and then sell to foreigners. But for you to sell to Nigerians in dollar is a criminal offense. Quote me anywhere, it's a criminal offense.
Okay, so
it should not be tolerated.
Now that you have proffered your solution, you can decide to not sell. And how would Nigerians get fuel now? Because we don't have a working refinery. And if NNPCL were to go outside, refine and bring back, we'll still be having the cost up there. And the essence of all of the back and forth is to make sure that the average Nigerian doesn't have to be paying exorbitant rates for fuel. And so the question is, how do we bridge all of these gaps? Because at the end of the day, it looks like there's no way out yet for the average Nigerian.
Well, for me, just like Nigerians are the receiving end. Went to elephants fights, the grass do what?
Bears the brunt.
The grass suffers. And look at now, many of these people, you want to sell your this thing in dollars. They don't have the dollars. So what it means is they have to go and look for a foreign country's currency to buy a product in their home country.
And that's also going to make
what a shame.
The price increase, because
what a shame.
If they have to change Naira to dollar, it's going to be costing them more.
For me, I'm in Nigeria. Not being a Nigerian, I have business in Nigeria, and I want to buy a product to change the Naira Kobo to dollar so they can take back. Even we tell them we don't have sufficient dollars to give you. Hold on, wait. And this thing created a backlog for a year, for 2 years under Buhari administration. At no point did these people say that we are going to stop selling in Naira and Kobo. We are going to resort to dollar. Do you know what they did? What they did was to increase the value. If you are to book for a flight that will depart from Nigeria to UK, if it were to be, let's say, let's convert it to Nigerian currency, 1 million, or maybe let's use dollar now. If it were to be, say, $1,000 or $1,000 in Ghana, do you know how much will be in Nigeria? It will be $3,000, but you have to pay in Naira. So what they do that period was, yes, we know we can't get this thing. Let's increase the price to discourage you. Let's increase the fact that government fails in its pact does not mean you go against the law.
Okay, so let me come in here. So Tony, from look of things now, where we are right now seems to be like a trade war between Dangote and federal government. Why am I saying that it seems to be like a trade war? From what we gathered, Dangote is taking this very direction because of the grievances it has. When I say Dangote, I mean the grievances it has against federal government. One is that federal government has continued to give or issue import licenses to marketers to import fuel because they want to have this very competition between what is imported and what Dangote refinery produces. So, number one issue is crude demand. Dangote refinery believes that it has the capacity to refine whatever Nigeria needs and even for export, but it has not gotten the needed amount of crude oil required. Then when it now comes to the proportion of crude sold to it in naira, it is very small compared to what it augments, and this is said to be the grievance of Dangote refinery. So it's like, let's drag each other and see who is going to board. Now, the way it is right now, if federal government decides to pull the plug, let's say, Dangote, you cannot be asking marketers in Nigeria to pay you in dollars. It's again the CBN Act of 2007. Whatever you're going to do here has to be priced in dollars. Sorry, it has to be priced in naira.
That's the law.
Dangote might choose not to supply to the Nigerian market and begin to supply to international market.
Not provide such expressly the way Dangote puts it. But that law is more like saying that it can only be done as a last resort when there is a shortfall. Once there is a shortfall, government can issue import license. In fact, it says that petroleum products can only be imported where there is a petroleum product shortfall, as determined by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. So Dangote saying that you are going against PIA of 2021 by issuing license. That law did not prohibit issuance of license, but that law says it can only be done when there is a shortfall. It is established there is a shortfall. But outside that, because we have to be very clear on that. And secondly, Nigerians, even marketers, can sue Dangote for refusing business interests. And
it is what it is.
You know, I've said it here. And I know, I'm just saying this. I'm not trying to link it to Mr. President, but I know the owner of Ando PLC, Wale Tinubu, who is also a brother to Mr. President. And I know he's into the business of importation. And he is also a big player in the industry. He has both OML and then OPL. He has some of these things. And situations where you box him to take from Dangote, I don't know how. For me, there is a clash of business interests.
Okay, we need to move on from this matter, please.
Quickly, does Dangote refinery have a point? Because they are saying, like the law is cited, says that you can only import. It's only allowable when locally produced fuel cannot meet domestic demand. So as it stands now, the locally produced fuel, is it meeting the local demand?
It has to be defined. Who defines it? And it can only be defined by what?
What he gives.
The NMPDR.
NDPRA.
They are the person that can determine if they say there is a shortfall. Dangote, what do you have to say?
Because
the law says they are the people that will determine if there is a shortfall or no shortfall. And when they come out to say there is a shortfall, that's why we issue license. How can Dangote contest this in courts?
But Dangote has said that there's also a shortfall from their end in terms of the crude deal being kept to. And so it looks like everybody is holding everybody by the jugular. I am more concerned about the common man. I am hoping that we don't get to suffer more.
Why are we not allowing our refineries to work?
Oh, well,
for
the
now.
conversation about refineries is going to be another day because, I mean, if we go into that, we might just start having tempers fly because a president in this country commissioned a non-working refinery. I'm never going to get past that. Troops have foiled an attempted kidnap at the Federal Government Girls College, Mongono, Borno State. According to reports, Operation Hadinkai, working with police mobile force personnel for the attempted mass abduction by ISWAP terrorists over the weekend. According to report, 46 students were rescued, and I am curious to find out. We've had the issue of the Chibok girls, the Dapchi girls, most recently the Rire school children, and schools are still susceptible to attack. What is really wrong with us, Tony?
Everything is wrong with us. In fact, it's a case where we are mad. We don't even know that we are mad. That is the case.
Are you sure we do not know, or we like to leave ourselves naked?
We live in self-denial.
But we had Operation Safe Schools. Why did we abandon that? Why did we conceive that if we did not know that we are mad?
Have you seen a madman admitting he's mad? The madman will even tell you are the one mad. See, the issue is this. Like we saw last week at the US Congress, where they have called the aid. And then look at the aid they usually give us. Close to $1 billion. Both in counter-terrorism, both in medics, both in governance, both in security. They do give us eggs. And I saw the pictorial explanation of this age, and now this age may be cut because they've resolved 100% that Christians are being persecuted. Of course, the voting was electronic. I watched the whole processes. In fact, I watched everything during the Congress sitting. Yes, I watched everything, and they voted 100% that Nigeria age be cut by US, the US Nigeria age. But the point I'm trying to make here is this: it's a problem because for you to make inroad, heads must roll. A river does not flow through the forest without bringing down trees. For the fact that we have those who have vested interest, who have sympathy for these people in corridors of power, they are holding offices. You think there will be a breakthrough until we look inwards. You cannot have this set of people around these formations, establishments, and expect miracle. There are those who are in fact doing everything to make sure that these bandits or Fulani headers, as we do call them, those who are militants, do get away with some of these things. Of course, you talked about what happened in Mungunu. And I said the time we were talking about the Orune school children. After Orune, we are next. I remember I asked that question. I'm not being a prophet of doom.
We asked here, Operation Safe School Initiative. Why have we not reactivated it?
Because they felt that it was more like genocidal. Remember, there are some northern politicians that will tell you that you don't do this. Because if you do this, you are going to kill our brothers, you are going to make our women to have no man or men to marry. And it's not gonna, in fact, the best thing is to introduce repentancy. That's what they introduce, and that's for them. It's more suitable, more valuable than Operation Safe, Heaven or Operation Safe School Initiatives and other operations. I'm not saying there are no operations going on. We have different operations going on, both Operation Hadinkai and so many of these operations, but how effective are they? You can't be running these operations where you have by each side the issue of repentant Boko Haram being taken care of, whereas the victims who continue to suffer injustice, they are allowed to wallow in their pains. Let's be real. I have said it many times. The templates, the framework we are working with will not take us anywhere. And it's not going to put off the burning flame. The flame is burning. And we are just fanning the embers of this flame. We've not done what we are supposed to do. We've not done that. For me, how long can you continue to to play an intermediary stuff with the United States of America? Look at Nuru Ibadu, the National Security Advisor. Last he went there, he hired a lobbyist company. We are told it was about $11 million. I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't say how much that will cost, but they did their bit. Now, that money seems to have expired for US Congress to do what they did last week. Because the lobbyist company must have completed its work and maybe asking for more money. Give us more money for us to keep lobbying as against us doing what we are supposed to do here in Nigeria. Now, there must be call to order, or the lobbyist company must be asked to return the money, because after your lobbying, US Congress has decided to cut the aid. We receive $800 million in aid per year. We gave the lobbyist company $11 million. I don't know. $8 million and $11 million. Which one? Sorry, $800 million. I think I beg to, correct myself. $800 million. That's what we do receive from United States of America per year. But what we gave the lobbyist company was allegedly, as reported, $11 million.
That's a little over 10%.
So maybe we are still in gains. But how long can you continue giving them money?
Okay, how long do we continue giving them money, and how long do we keep putting the lives of our children at risk? Quickly now, Tony. Nigeria has asked ECOWAS to drag South Africa before the African Union. According to a report, this is going to be over recurring xenophobic attacks against Nigerians and other African nationals in South Africa. Also, President Bola Tinubu called for continental action, arguing that xenophobia threatens African unity and regional integration. We also have human rights lawyer Femi Falana arguing that affected countries should seek legal redress and compensation for victims. Now, these are things that we have actually asked for in the past. I recall Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bianca Ojukwu, also saying something about compensation from South Africa because businesses were left behind, structures were left behind, and a whole lot. And so it looks like diplomacy has failed to stop the repeated xenophobic attacks in South Africa. I mean, if it hasn't failed, we won't have it reoccurred this year. The deadline that was given to other people living in South Africa. And worse still, the silence of the South African government. I dare say the South African government was indirectly fully in support of what was happening because of the way it docilely handled everything. And so I am curious to find out how else African nationals, particularly Nigerians, can go about this, especially in terms of compensation. People lost a lot leaving South Africa. How can they be paid back? And of course, do you think that taking South Africa before AU and ECOWAS would make any difference?
Well, for me, just like I said, South Africa, remember that was in 2023, dragged Israel against, in fact, dragged Israel before the International Court of Justice. But the ones sitting in The Hague over what they were doing in Gaza, their detention camp in Gaza as it affects human rights, South Africa. And Nigeria is calling on ECOWAS to drag South Africa before AU. Can you imagine that? What prevents us from dragging South Africa before even the ICC or even before the AU? Must we call on ECOWAS? If we need ECOWAS to also join us, it's something we can coordinate. I've said it before now. I'm still to decipher why we have not even done anything as a way to seek justice to our brothers who were disgraced, strip everything they had, and brought home like criminals. I have not seen what Nigerian government has done in respect to that, and I'm still to see. And I'm here telling you, look at South Africa that dragged Israel. 5 proceedings against them, alleging that Israel had violated the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in its military operations in Gaza. And they requested provisional measures, including orders aimed at protecting Palestinians, while the case is being heard. That is the case before ICJ, as we speak right now. South Africa. Now, the question is, if they have interest of Palestinians, and they don't even have interest of other Africans, now, South Africa is playing big brother to Palestinians, but they are not playing big brother to Africans that even fought for them, did everything for them. Many of them came to Nigeria during the apartheid system. They were housed, they were accommodated. Even their president, as we speak, even Cyril Ramaphosa cannot deny. Thabo Mbeki cannot even deny. Many times they were here. They were. I don't want to talk about how Nelson Mandela was protected here, but they had other things with other African countries showing support. But now they are playing big brother to Palestine because of what Israel, according to them, is doing. We can also drag them, even when we know that we have to sue them in a different legal conditions, because we cannot simply sue because of xenophobic attacks. Because Nigeria must have a viable case. They must establish that these people, they have been treated inhumanly. Because you can't just say, I'm filing a suit against South Africa because of xenophobia. No. You must establish they have been treated inhumanly. You must establish, and it is everywhere. We can easily establish that. Because when you close somebody's house, shop, the person starts sleeping maybe in the streets, going naked, being subjected to cold, being subjected to hunger, being subjected to some of these things. This case is very easy.
Look, so Tony,
very easy.
So Tony, I got from somewhere that for Nigeria to be able to drag South Africa to what's it called again?
ICJ.
To an international tribunal over this very
International Court of Justice.
Over this very xenophobic attack, that Nigeria must be able to, prove that the state, when I said, I mean the country is behind what happened in South Africa. But if you look at the whole thing, it appears as if it was driven by citizens in as much as we have seen cases where some Nigerians were killed by security operatives
That's another one.
in South Africa. So one is, if Nigeria can actually go to this very international tribunal and be able to prove its case, then secondly is that international muscle that is required for you to be able to pull this. Does Nigeria have it? Is Nigeria still a force to be reckoned with in the Committee of Nations that if the country coughs or sneezes, somebody needs to catch cold? Then on the issue of compensation, which we have talked about, the last time the Nigerian government spoke about it, I saw it as just like government trying to make a rhetoric statement that at the end of the day might not be able to get any result. Since then, has the government of Nigeria made any move on this? And secondly, even if they are going to make move on this very compensation, the informal businesses that are not documented, how are they going to lay claim to the monetary value of these very businesses?
We have to make demands, and I've said it many times. We have to proceed to international court of justice. And then you said whether we have the muzzle, we are signatory to the treaty. You don't need to have a special muzzle to make a case. If you look at South Africa has violated a lot of charters, even African Charter on Human and People's Rights. In fact, the Banjul Charter, if you look at different articles there, right to life and integrity of the person, even that's Article 4, if I still remember. Even the right to dignity, because many Nigerians who were in South Africa, they have been stripped of dignity. That is Article 5. Now, South Africa has also violated international covenant on civil and political rights, international convention on the elimination of all forms of racial discrimination, because what they are doing is racism. Forget how you coined it, xenophobia, whatever you like it. That is for me racism.
Tony, what you're saying is not being disputed, but
Okay.
when you go to court, the issues of facts and evidences and law, they come into play.
Exactly.
It's not just for somebody to make a claim or for somebody to cry out, and of course, we are not blind, we are not deaf. We know what happened in South Africa. But if you look at South Africa, for instance, under the South African law, there's a provision that says that operating the business as a foreign national requires meeting specific capital investment threshold.
Okay.
There's one that requires that it must be up to 5 million rands investment. In that very case, all those small businesses are reserved for South Africans, just like the way it is in Ghana. There was a time we had that same issue in Ghana. So if you're going to court to make claims about compensation,
Okay.
the issue of what kind of business are you doing comes into play.
All right.
Were you able to meet that very national threshold of investment in South Africa?
If you ask that question, because some of the businesses in South Africa, many Nigerians were undertaken before this incident. Many of them were actually registered. You said I have to meet this threshold, and you are the same person that registered me. You cannot operate a business in South Africa without registration. For you to register me, and it is your own problem. If you think I've not fulfilled that threshold, why did you register me in the first instance?
There are some of them who are doing businesses in South Africa that are not registered. Some of them are also doing a good business. In fact, I know a friend who is in South Africa. Last time we spoke, he was trying to open a school in South Africa inside his house. Do you understand?
Yeah, no. If you have to,
We understand that, but the
it's
question
like
at this point
it's
is
illegal business. I'm not
the
talking about illegal
people
business.
who are legal.
What I'm
How
saying,
do we get compensation for them?
Government can go ahead. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying, government can actually go ahead. People can go ahead and lodge complaint. No, what I'm saying is, when you are lodging, make sure that you have the things on ground that can
The
help you
facts
to
and
get
data.
something. It's
All
not
right.
It's not just to ride on the emotion. And that's okay. Let's just go because we're in Nigeria. At the end of the day, you end up not getting anything.
No, definitely. You must do your homework. And then these things are not rocket science. They are established. And before ICJ, if you have violated any treaty, especially that has to do with the human right, dignity of life, the right to life, it is established. You must pay certain amount.
All right.
Or you, maybe the president may even be declared wanted.
All right, let's go on a break now. Attend to a commercial. When we come back, we open up the phone line. Do stay.
Oh, my battery that was arrested.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Okpokopinezia.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, Opa Chichane Tozialo. Wendy's bread, Mama Papa they like Wendy's bread, Chichane Nyandu. Wendy's bread, even children they like Wendy's bread. Wendy's bread, and in town. Wendy's bread, get it better tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread, Wendy's your bachichoma. Wendy's bread,
Wendy's bread, tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, Second Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside CPS, Onitsha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza.
7 FM. You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
All right, get involved. Put a call across to 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. Please take a minute. Go straight to the point. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Becky and Mr. Frank.
You're welcome.
My request is coming from Monica. I want to talk on the issue of Dangote. See, let me tell us that Dangote is not our problem. The problem is the federal government of Nigeria. They should stop this hide and seek game they are playing. Look, Dangote has come out to tell you his problem. That after telling you a naira to go and source for another crude, to go and get another crude, he's going to look for a dollar to do that. So how will you want his business to start? Yeah? The federal government is sincere enough. Dangote has come to give you his problems. You should tell Dangote that whenever you want to go and buy crude, come, we can give you dollars. If we have a sincere government, that is what we tell Dangote. And not all these side and see that at all. Let me tell you the truth. If we have a very stable government and good governance, Dangote's refinery should be supported by them very, very well. Yes, even if Dangote said that they should collect licenses from all those importers, it is on a right track. We should encourage our local production. And again, Mr. Speaker, if he said that Dangote cannot defend whether he has enough local production in Nigeria, he can defend it. Those people you mentioned that are supposed to be the people that are going to tell us whether we have enough. Please come and tell us how much we consume a day.
All right, thank you, Marike. Good morning.
Good morning, Good morning, Franklin, and good morning, Majestic Attorney Sambeki. The voice of Honorable Mayor Okutukume JP, calling from Awada this morning. I will go straight to the point. What I want to say in earnest about our judiciary. If judiciary, the lawyers cannot have a credible election, how can they be able to defend the promises when they came from? If they are doing hanky-panky this type of election that we demand with illegality, how can we trust them to do a good job? So it is a pity. It is to show how Nigeria has deteriorated the level we are. Then I want to say this. Anytime I hear about Dangote controlling the price of fuel in Nigeria, it makes me cry. How can a person build a refinery that is working on the price of petrol in a whole country like Nigeria that has oil, that has every money to build about 50 refineries and make oil even 200 naira or 300 naira per liter? All this nonsense that they used to tell us, all these things they are saying, in fact, they are just making mockery of Nigeria. We hold them from rebuilding our refineries. They are telling us to Dangote, if you can't go to one, let me say it's 2,000 naira. The people at the end of conflict, they are the cause of all those things. Thank you and God bless you.
All right then. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. My speaker, good morning.
You're welcome.
Chisom, good morning. I'm Franklin. You guys are doing wonders. This is Akamere. Yeah, and Akamere is calling from Segu. My speaker, please, sorry for diverting our attention. since we talk about the late Monday Johnson, we have never had anything from you since then. Please, if you can just tell us what is happening. So what I want to just talk is on this South Africa issue. Nigeria taking them to court. You know, in our Igbo adage, as Nonye, what I'm saying is this: they are taking South Africa to court because of inhuman treatment they have meted to our citizens. What is happening in Nigeria? Who will take federal government to court? Because on daily basis, we are hearing how people are being killed, and the federal government are not doing anything. If you open your radio set, you hear, great number like 40 or thereabout who were killed by these terrorists, and the federal government are not doing anything to stop it. I think South Africans, they might be hearing what is happening in Nigeria and see the way the government are treating it with a key blue. That is the reason why they are doing our citizens like that, because the federal government are not, doing something tangible to stop this killing. The thing is just disturbing. You open your television set or TV set, you hear that these people were attacked and killed, and it's not good. On this, the election of this MPA, these people were saying that they are the people common hope of the citizens. But look at the way they are doing. Look at it. How they are showing us that they can't even conduct free and fair elections, and they are giving us all these things for us to know that Nigeria is very corrupt.
Thank you very much. 0803-221-6973. You have a minute. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Good morning. Please, Nigeria government is talking about South Africa. What have we done in our place? My children who is there. One say he will not come because Nigeria. When he comes to Nigeria, what can he do? Because Nigeria is corrupt. Nigeria is nothing. That he will like to die there. My name is Simon. I'm telling you the truth and nothing but it. Nigeria has fallen. APC government has made Nigeria worse. Please, tell them to repair Nigeria. If they don't want to repair Nigeria, let them leave South Africa alone. If our children die there, it was in the head of APC government. Thank you.
Thank you. Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Good morning. Are you there? Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Isum are the enemy of consumer. And the enemy of consumer is the enemy of the people. Because they come to control the price of the good, to suppress people. That is why they want to be alone in any sector. So it's just a beginning of what Nigeria will see from him. Dangote and the people who invested their looted fund into his company are suppressed. They are holding us to ransom. How can you demand for Naira, for the crude oil, and Nigeria granted it? That is only intervention from the president. When he demanded to buy the crude oil with Naira, Mr. President asked the people, asked the NMDC to grant that request. How can he come back to tell Nigeria that he will be selling in dollar? How can he do such a thing?
All right, thank you very much, Chidi Chukuma. I think you are missing the point here. You are missing.
People are supporting
Chidi Chukuma, give me a second.
We give other people the kind of support.
Chidi Chukuma.
I don't think that we'll be having all these problems. This is the one that.
I have to let you go, Chidi Chukuma. If you listened to the conversation before now, Dangote says, yes, President Tinubu agreed to sell crude to him in naira, but the quantity NMPCL is giving him is not enough for him to refine and give to Nigeria and still sell so that he would also have some FX. And of course, Nigeria, on the other hand, is saying we can't give you all the crude because we also need to sell and have some FX. Now, the two of them are at the center of it. To supplement what Nigeria gives, Dangote has to buy crude from other countries. And he doesn't do that with Naira, or does he? Now, because he doesn't do that with Naira, he has said, because I am buying the crude with which I refine the oil you buy in dollars, you will now have to start paying me in dollars. But this is very simple.
Okay, let me add. Let me add.
His government on its own. It's his own government.
Let me add.
He's a businessman, but this is the explanation he has given.
let
I
me
mean,
add.
for the person who is...
Why can't he sell in naira the extent he collected in naira?
Who is there to check?
Tony,
But then
Quickly, we
let
are
me-
going over to
let-
Facebook.
Let me add, because the thing is this, sometimes when we do things, maybe we might blame somebody, but sometimes the laws of the land have enabled that. Take, for instance, there is a zone called free trade zones in Nigeria. If your business is located in that very place, you are permitted by law to trade in dollars.
No.
You are.
No.
Tony, you are.
I have read that law very well.
You
See,
are.
let me explain it. It's good that you brought it. I was actually waiting for the.
You can check it out.
If you look at that law gives foreign exchange incentives. Incentives does not expressly mean you trade in dollars. What are these incentives? Because if you look at Section 18, if I'm still correct, because I know I'm correct, I'm going to read that very part of the law. Section 18 talks about incentives. If you have a business in free trade zone, foreign exchange regulations do not apply. Regulations does not mean selling in dollars. And this regulation means that you must not go through CBN regulations when it comes to flexibility of foreign exchange. And it also means that free remittance of profit, you can return your profit in dollars to your host countries. In fact, it also means that you can as well have 100% ownership with that Nigerian partner.
When it's
And then another person, Dr. Misimo Lebera, says there is no way we can have one party system in Nigeria, because if we do, nobody will question the government of the day and hold it accountable, who then will speak on behalf of the masses. Without opposition, democracy is meaningless. We are in a serious trouble in this country, a situation where ruling party tries to silence and destroy oppositions, pushing the nation to one-party state. It becomes dictatorship and no longer democracy. And Sunday Amen says it's only when the true stakeholders of Dangote Refinery is on marks that Nigerians will understand why Dangote is doing what he's doing. No action is taken against him, and the refineries are not working. He posted from Maba. And then Christopher Ikechukwu Biagu says he's listening from Abatan Suba. He said, I feel so ashamed for Nigerian hearing the dollar saga with Dangote on crude supply. Nigeria is deliberately holding themselves for ransom and not the other way. What stopped Nigeria from having at least 3 functional refineries for the local economy? We are shifting our failures and blaming another man. Nigeria now rely on Dangote for refined crude. Let this lesson push the federal government to work on our refineries. Then Zepwe, thank you. And then Matthew Andowa say thank you for following. Then Mbechiobi from Mihela, thank you also for following. Justice Iken Valerian Eguago, okay, says under Nigeria's Export Processing Zone Act, NEBZA Act, enterprises operating in an approved free trade zone enjoy special treatment